Welcome, Hattiesburg, and a pleasant day to all our listeners. This is Abby, your host for Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. I'm here to bring you updates, news, and more from our community. To add to all the excitement today, we have Mississippi Moments with Richard Berger and a news wrap with Kennedy Drake to ensure you're up to date on all the hottest topics. And guess what? We have a very special guest for you today, Matthew Ralph. You definitely want to stay tuned for what he has to share with us today. But before we jump into all the fun, here's a quick message from our sponsor. So hang tight, we'll be right back with more Southern Miss Today.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mississippi Beverages. Mississippi Beverages provides water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mississippi Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mississippi Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online. Sponsorship comes from American Graphics. Located at 8 Commercial Warehouse Drive in Hattiesburg, American Graphics provides custom screen printing and embroidery. They can be reached by phone at 601-602-2277, and the website is goamericangraphics.com. American Graphics, printing at its finest.
Welcome back. In campus news, Southern Miss President Dr. Joe Paul received Service Member Patriot Award for support of military personnel. Dr. Joe Paul, president of the University of Southern Mississippi, has received the Service Member Patriot Award presented by the Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve to patriotic employers during a ceremony on March 14th at the Center for Military Veterans, Service Members, and Families on the Southern Miss Hattiesburg campus. Given to supervisors who provide direct support to service members, the Patriot Award reflects the efforts made to support citizen warriors. Second Lieutenant Sawyer Walters, platoon leader with Delta Company of the 150th Brigade Engineer Battalion and development officer for the USM Foundation, nominated Paul for the award. In January 2024, the university and the National Guard Bureau signed an agreement to establish the Center for the Study of the National Guard on the Southern Miss campus. The center will serve as a central repository for archival material and oral histories and function as well as the international level resource for the study of the Guard's past, present, and future. An additional agreement was signed on February 2025 during a ceremony at the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum at Camp Shelby, solidifying the relationship between the university and the center and the Mississippi National Guard. Also in campus news, Southern Miss School of Performing and Visual Arts Dance Gala set for March 27th through the 28th. The University of Southern Mississippi School of Performing and Visual Arts dance program will showcase original works by faculty and distinguished guest artists, all brought to life by its talented dance students. The annual Dance Gala concert will be held March 27th through 28th at the Mononi Performing Arts Center on Hattiesburg campus. Tickets will be available for purchase at the door or in advance online at the Dance Gala concert ticket on Eventbrite. The production features choreography by guest artists who have had the opportunity to empower and inspire Southern Miss students during their campus visits. Artists in residence at the Environment Institute at University College London and Artistic Director, Southern Miss alumni Lawrence Jackson, Professor of Dance at the George Mason University School of Dance. The dance that they will be performing merges contemporary choreography with a classical Indian dance form. During her visit, she worked with students to recreate her piece Plastic, Drastic, Fantastic, which explores the complexities of human relationships to the metaphor of plastic from the molecular to the global level. The work will be presented in April at the Mississippi School for Deaf as well. In Hattiesburg news, cleanup continues after severe weather left behind a trail of destruction on Saturday. One of the hardest hit areas is Tylertown. The heartbreak is still very fresh and widespread in the tight-knit community. Along New River Road, there are numerous homes and RVs that are unrecognizable. Residents are continuing to pick up what's left, if anything, of what used to be their homes. Volunteer organizations are helping those affected plan their next steps. While so many lives have been impacted by severe weather in the state, the community is rallying together to make sure no one suffers alone. In Mississippi news, North Forest senior drowns on spring break while trying to save others. There are heavy hearts in the North Forest community as friends, family, and teachers mourn the loss of 17-year-old Demetrius Moore. He was an amazing person, an even better friend, said his girlfriend. Demetrius was just months away from graduation. He was a very big guy, so he has a head and shoulders above everyone in the hallway, said Chris Arnold, a teacher from North Forest. Quiet, reserved, but yet he had a sneaky wit to him. He was my peacekeeper. He was always asked The other students in my classroom, why so hostile? Demetrius had a group of friends traveled to a beach in Pensacola on March 13th. Loved ones say he drowned while trying to save others. Absolutely devastated. That's the only word that comes to mind. Devastated. Devastated for Demetrius and his family as well as Demetrius. But we're also devastated for what it's done to the rest of the school body. But he is a hero. He will be remembered that way, Arnold said. Less than a week since his passing, friends and teachers say Demetrius has left a lasting impression in his place. In national news, a police officer and his wife in Indiana were arrested after they allegedly made their daughter stand outside in freezing temperatures, holding a cruel sign as punishment. Officer Cody Scott and his wife Kylie Scott are both charged with 2 counts of felony neglect of a dependent. A woman called police reporting a little girl standing outside in the cold with a sign by the road. The little girl was Scott's 6-year-old daughter. At the time, the temperature was 18 degrees outside. The sign allegedly read, "I want to stab and kill my brother. I even take antipsychotics. If you need to give pity, then give it to the victims." Officer Scott arrived at the scene with his supervisor. Body camera footage alleged showed the caller saying to Scott, "This baby is standing out here in the freezing cold with a sign." "Yep, she comes out there every 30 minutes and she goes back inside every 10 to warm back up," Scott said. While they were speaking, another man pulled up and also expressed his fear for the girl. "Well, sir, aside from me cruelly beating her physically," Scott replied, I've not done any other punishment that has worked for her." Scott reportedly told the 911 caller that the girl had been taken to a hospital twice and that the girl had been kicked out. "I threatened to not pick her up," Scott replied, telling the 911 caller. The school also reported that the girl has also been made to carry a sign at the Walmart that read, "I lied to hurt other people." Following a unanimous vote, Officer Scott was placed on unpaid administrative leave. The couple appeared in court on March 13th and pleaded not guilty. Both are due back in court on May 8th for a pre-trial conference, and a trial date has been set up for September 22nd. That's your news update from Southern Miss Today. Next, we'll have the latest in sports and weather, so stay tuned. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mississippi Beverages. Mississippi Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mississippi Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mississippi Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online.
In Southeast Mississippi, we stand united for the most vulnerable in our community. Become a game changer and volunteer by calling United Way of Southeast Mississippi at 601-545-7141. We have one life. To live better, we must live united.
Welcome back with our action-packed sports segment. Let's dive into the latest scores, highlights, and sports. Get your jerseys on because it's game time. Today, Wednesday, March 19th, the softball team will be playing against Nichols. On Thursday, March 20th, track and cross country will be at the Bulldog Alumni Relays through Saturday, March 22nd. On Friday, March 21st, the baseball team will be playing against ULM. The softball team will be playing against Troy. On Saturday, March 22nd, the women's tennis team will be playing against James Madison, and the men's tennis team will be playing against Georgia State. The baseball team will also be playing against ULM, and the softball team will be playing against Troy. And on Sunday, March 23rd, the women's tennis team will be playing against Old Dominion University. The softball team will be playing against Troy, and the baseball team will be playing against ULM. Head to southernmiss.com to keep up with all the Golden Eagles sports activities. As for weather today, look for a low of 65 with a low chance of rain and a high of 56. The feels like for today is 50 to 73 degrees. Tomorrow, look for a low of 40 and a high of 62 with a low chance of rain. Tomorrow's feels like is 34 to 55 degrees. Up next, we have Mississippi Moments, produced by the Center for Oral History and Cultural Heritage, with Richard Berger comparing 60s NASA computers to now. Check it out.
This is Mississippi Moments, produced by the Center for Oral History and Cultural Heritage at the University of Southern Mississippi and supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. I'm Bill Ellison. Throughout his career, Richard Berger used a wide variety of computers and programming languages. He compares the NASA mainframes of the 1960s to today's more powerful laptops.
When I was with NASA, I was doing more scientific type programming. Then I went to work for Ingalls, shipbuilding. And I did very little scientific with English, and mostly was doing data processing work for them. In my time, I've seen the computer go from, like, we used to have a computer had 16K memory, where a laptop now is probably 100 times more powerful than what we had back in that day. And the computers we used, I was at Slidell Computer Center, and those computers, the floor where they were would probably be about as big as a gym floor. It was full of computers, you know, mainframes and disks, tape drives, and your laptop at home probably today is more powerful than that. And that was taking up whole gym floor. Just the difference in back then in the 60s and today.
Bill Ellison hosts Voices of Our People World War II, a new podcast from Mississippi Moments, sponsored by the Mississippi Humanities Council. That's Voices of Our People World War II, wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Mississippi Moments, produced by the Center for Oral History and Cultural Heritage at the University of Southern Mississippi and supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. I'm Bill Ellison. A.J. Jones of Hattiesburg was coming home after spending a pleasant Sunday afternoon in the country when he heard about the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. He explains his decision to join the Navy afterwards.
I'd been out to Royal Springs that afternoon after church. We went to Royal Springs. I got a place out there. And we're coming in, and it was a stoplight where the Crest Building used to be. There's a main street in front, and it's on the radio that Pearl Harbor had been attacked by the Japanese. That's when I heard about Pearl Harbor coming back to town, going home. I didn't run down. A lot of people ran down and started joining the Army or Marines or Navy or something the next day. But I didn't run. I waited until after the first. Matter of fact, I went to the Sugar Bowl game that year, and then later on I've been thinking about what I had to do because I knew I would be drafted sometimes, and if you got drafted more or less, you went in the Army. So I joined the Navy.
Bill Ellison hosts Voices of Our People World War II, a new podcast from Mississippi Moments, sponsored by the Mississippi Humanities Council. That's Voices of Our People World War II, wherever you get your podcasts.
That was your 2 Mississippi moments for today. Coming up, we have the pleasure of hearing from Matthew Ralph after a quick break.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mississippi Beverages. Mississippi Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mississippi Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mississippi Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online.
Estos son los sonidos de una cena que casi no sucedió. Es una cena servida gracias a personas como tú. Debido a la crisis actual, 50 millones de personas pueden vivir con hambre este año. Feeding America está ayudando a los que más lo necesitan. Y si quieres, tú puedes ayudar también. Visita feedingamerica.org/en-español. Patrocinado por el Ad Council y Feeding America, la fuerza de 200 bancos de alimentos.
Well, now, please give a warm Golden Eagle welcome to Matthew. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Could you introduce yourself and tell everyone what you're here to talk about, please?
Sure. I'm Matthew James Ralph. I'm the director of Big Fish the Musical, which will be performing this weekend and next weekend at the Theater and Dance Building here on the university campus.
Awesome. For those who aren't familiar with the musical, can you give a little synopsis of what Big Fish is?
Of course. So it's based off of a book and then movie. The book is by David Wallace, and the movie is a Tim Burton movie, Big Fish. It's a musical written by Andrew Lippa about the relationship between a father and a son and them coping with their different ideologies. The son is very logical, very informed, not outlandish, whereas the father is a storyteller, and he focuses on embellishment when giving these moral compass stories that the son, over time, learns to basically hold against his father. He doesn't believe his father. He doesn't know who his father really is because of all these embellishments. And it's the story of the two coming together and finding common ground with these stories and what the purpose behind the stories really are. to basically live a happy and successful life.
Awesome. What sets Southern Miss's production of Big Fish apart from other productions?
Sure. So with our production, we've gone a little different in the path of how we wanted to go about telling this story. You could very easily put them in the places that they're going to, which we do, but we do it in a pop-up book style. So the theme of storytelling is throughout the show. And pop-up books have an essence of whimsy and childhood wonder that we wanted to accentuate in our version that isn't necessarily accentuated in others. So it's very focused on the fact that these are stories, these are whimsical. We focus on the fantastic as opposed to necessarily putting them where they really are in any given moment. This makes it easier for us because it pulls us away from quote-unquote realism and puts us into a more expressionistic type of world.
What caused the choice of Big Fish as opposed to other shows? I don't know how it works here compared to high school for theater.
Of course.
So that I'm curious.
So the way our program works is we have a play selection committee that is composed of faculty, grad students, and undergrads. The entire student body and faculty submit shows to the play committee. They then read the shows, and then those shows are then sent to, basically whittled down to about 12, and then sent to the faculty for a final selection. This show, I think, was selected partially because it provides a lot of opportunity for our young actors. It will stretch our actors. It's very large. It's a challenge. I mean, it's right there in the name, Big Fish. So it has been a lot of work for us. It's stretched us as a program, and we had the people that fit in the roles that the show provides. With play selection, you have to think about the student body as a whole and what that looks like and who you have. And this was a show that we felt could not only challenge our students, but also fit what we have in the program to be able to do.
You just mentioned being stretched out working on this. What are some obstacles y'all came across working on this show?
Yeah, so we've had struggles as far as budgetary. I mean, with any show, finances are important. But we've also run into this semester, we call it the alphabet semester in our program because we have a bunch of conferences happening this semester. KCACTF, which is the Kennedy Center. We have SETC, which is happening in Baltimore right now, the Southeastern Theater Conference, as well as USIT, which is USITT. The United States Institute for Technical Theater has a conference, as well as spring break. So our rehearsal process has been a bit disjointed. So we lose people and we bring people in. It's also January and February, so you deal with illnesses, people come in and out. So it's been a haul as far as just maintaining our pace, maintaining the rehearsal process of building the show, retaining all the information that we get in an individual rehearsal. I mean, they're learning choreo, they're learning the notes to the songs that they're singing, they're working blocking as far as where they need to be on stage. Our actors have been absolutely phenomenal in dealing with all of these stopgaps as far as getting them to the next step of the process. And the flexibility that we've had to have throughout has been tremendous. And then as far as once we get into tech is a time in the theater where you put in the set, the costumes, the lighting, all of the fantasy that I was just talking about. Those things don't happen in the rehearsal room because you're in a completely different hall as opposed to the space that you're performing in. So we've this week been struggling to incorporate all those things. Been behind on some things, but we figured it out. We work with what we have, and we just plug away, I guess.
You mentioned earlier, I'm bouncing around. I never not do this. Sorry.
It's totally fine.
Yeah, everyone has to get used to it. But you mentioned it being like pop-up book style.
Sure.
Is that like a visual? Is there is that a visual element specifically? Like Almost Maine, how it's actually, I don't know the like actual version, but I know the high school version, it's literally built entirely on a turntable. I don't know about the
Gotcha.
real one, but it's like a two-sided turntable, and like half the stories, it's like an anthology series, so
Of
half of them
course.
take place outside, half are inside, for anyone who doesn't know what that is. But like it was just a turntable, everything took place. Is
Yeah.
it kind of something like that?
So no, I'm very familiar with the show Almost Maine. I worked on it as a scenic designer myself,
Awesome.
and the way that we did the show was we set it in Maine and we just had like a white set, and with that set, the individual stories would come out and we would like add a bench. Or
Okay.
we'd take something away. So the fun part about theater for me as a director is figuring out how to accomplish those challenges. So the production that you saw came up with the use of a turntable to move to the individual spaces that they're in. But my solution back when I did it in undergrad was to have a common space that these people just came through. And we created different spaces within that given space by bringing out specific furniture items.
Okay.
With Big Fish, the way that we're working it is our proscenium has an open book facing, and then upstage we have a fly system where we fly in and out these large flats, Hollywood flats, that then give us a backdrop to the world that is happening in front of it.
Okay.
So as we move from, say, the University of Auburn to a circus, we'll have a building fly out and then a tent fly in. And
Okay.
we have it in a pop-up book style, so it feels very targeted towards children, targeted towards whimsy, very family-friendly, fantastic.
It's almost like what it came to mind like Winnie the Pooh, the books when they did the movies.
Yeah.
Kind of like, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I was curious because when we did theater stuff, it was always like the same set, and they were like, you're just gonna have to ignore the back part of it because this is a high school. But Almost Maine was the only different thing I could think of, and I was like curious about it. When and where is the performance of Big Fish gonna be?
Sure. So we actually open tomorrow. It opens March 20th. It'll run to the 22nd this weekend. All the performances are at 7:30 p.m. And then next weekend, March 28th through the 30th, the 28th and 29th will be at 7:30 p.m. And then the 30th will be a matinee at 2 p.m. All of this is happening in the Theater and Dance Building on campus. Yeah.
All right, awesome. And where can tickets be bought?
So you can buy them online at southernmisstickets.evenue.net, or when the doors open, the house will open about 45 minutes before showtime. You can show up and buy your tickets at the door.
And how much are, for people that may be planning to go, how much are tickets? Is there a difference between like online and in-person ones? Do you know?
There's not. I believe that if you purchase them online, you're selecting either student, senior, military, faculty, or staff, or public. If you're buying a public ticket, it's $18. Senior, military, faculty, and staff are charged $15, and if you're a student, it's $8.
All right, awesome. Ooh, student tickets. Oh yeah. Austin, he can't hear me. He doesn't listen from in there. But we're going to this, and you already told me we're doing that, but it's okay. Which times are typically the busiest for y'all?
So opening night, which will be tomorrow, the 20th, is generally fairly full. And then I would say Saturday nights are probably the second most populated shows. Right now, all the shows still have tickets available, so you can purchase tickets for any night, but they do sell out quickly, especially once the show opens. Buzz starts to get around and tickets start to fly off the shelves. And that's for every night.
Awesome. That's actually great. Guys, buy tickets to choir stuff. I forgot to promote it last week, and then they were like $70. Sorry, but yeah, I don't know. That was insane. It was like 27 to 75 or something.
Yikes! Yeah, we're much less expensive.
Yeah, and there was no student discount. Sorry, not to like dog on my own thing, but go to the theater thing. If you could describe the show in one word, what would it be? And not big or fish.
You're cutting me at the knees. I've used the word already, but fantastic. I mean, the show is is larger than life in so many ways, which is kind of hinting at big. But it's just a show about a man who lives in a fantasy world and makes it his reality. It's a show about a guy who wants to share the whimsy and the wonder that he sees in the world with his child. And the fight between trying to see eye to eye with that kid. There is so much heart in this story between the two, not to mention their wives. It hits home for me because I have a very up and down relationship with my own father, and anytime you do art, you put yourself in the art.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, I have a very, very close relationship with him now. Growing up when you're an angsty teenager,
It just happens. It's
it
gonna
just
happen.
happens, right? So I relate back to when I was still at home with him, and I put a lot of that in the show. So yeah, I would say the fantasy and the fantastic within the show are what make it so successful.
Okay. And you mentioned, again, everywhere, but you mentioned it being kid-friendly. Was that a goal that y'all set to, we're going to be like, okay, this is a college performance of this specific, like, adult-themed
Sure.
show, but we want to target it towards kids? Or, well, not target it, but, like, make it more kid-friendly? Or was it a coincidence? Or, like, yeah, you know what I'm
I
saying.
think it was a bit of a coincidence. I think it's inherent in the script that it is useful for children just because there is a character within the show that's like 8 or 9, which part of our challenge was casting a student as an 8 or 9-year-old boy.
That was gonna be my next question.
So we have a wonderful actress, Bethany Cantrell, who is filling the role. And she has been fantastic throughout the process. That's been a challenge. But within the show, it's, I think, inherent that these stories are pertinent to those growing up as well as those that are on the other side of things, those that are already fathers, because they see it from a completely different point of view. So this show is really well structured in the way that it doesn't really matter your age. It's going to hit you in one way or another, whether that be from the side of Edward the father or Will the son, who we see go from this 7 to 8-year-old to a married 28-year-old. And we see that progression, and we, just as human beings, can relate to that.
Was there another direction that was considered for it to go besides the, like you mentioned, the whimsy? Or did it, like you said, pure coincidence, it just kind of happened?
So when we started out, we have a design team that comes in, a scenic designer, a costume designer, lights and sound designers as well. We included our props and hair and makeup throughout the process. And what we found really early on was this theme of stories. And we were headed in a different sort of direction, and it actually ended up being me and our scenic designer on a phone call just randomly one day talking, and I was like, what about a pop-up book? What if we brought in this whimsy of something that you don't normally see in a book? You open a novel and you get words. It's a very magical thing as a child to open a book and have something come out at you. And we wanted to recreate that inspiration with this show, to have something pop up out of us rather than just an open book on stage. So I wouldn't say that we had a different direction. I think we just came together and found it. Our process starts with words and images. So we find words that we find pertinent throughout the show as well as pertinent to the show, descriptors. And then from those words, we go out and we find images that we find impactful to the story that we're going to tell. So if you look at the poster for the show, you'll see it's an open book with elephants and circus elements coming out of it, like a pop-up book. Those images were taken directly from our image cloud that we created in the design process, which allows us to then move forward with what we want in the design within the world that we're trying to create. So I wouldn't say that we had a different direction. I think we started out on a path, and this is where it led us.
Okay, awesome. Would you like to plug any social media, either yours or the schools, or anywhere you can get information?
That is a great thing to do. I believe my social media, is Matt Ralph Director, not Matthew, just Matt Ralph Director.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug, exactly. But then we also have Southern Miss Theater, which will give you guys updates at all times. Every Tuesday we do every Tuesday we have somebody come on and talk about the show throughout our stories, as well as our Facebook group, which is, I believe, also Southern Miss Theater.
Okay, awesome. I will see about getting the social media team to repost do y'all have a digital poster?
I believe so. It should be on the Southern Miss Theater Instagram. It is 3 posts ago on the Southern Miss Theater Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. I will get our people in social media. Oh, that's actually really cool. Sorry, guys, you can't see that. It's just for me. It's a me only thing. Sorry. But I will see about them putting all the information for it. Thank you for coming and talking about this today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Coming up, we've got Kennedy Drake reporting on Mississippi farmers facing losses due to inflation.
The cost of running a farm is at an all-time high. Fertilizer, fuel, labor, and equipment are all more expensive than ever. At the same time, international market forces have driven down crop prices, leaving farmers stuck in a financial squeeze.
All their inputs, their fertilizer, their chemicals, their machinery, the transportation, the fuel, insurance, everything is just skyrocketed. And you're finding that these farmers are not able to pencil a profit. At best, they're penciling a small loss right now for a grain farmer.
For farmers like John Corley, cutting fertilizer cost isn't an option. Without proper nutrients, crops suffer, leading to lower production and more financial strain.
When fertilizer prices went through the roof, is that you can't go without a good fertility to grow a crop, and so that's not an area we can cut, unfortunately, and it seems to be one of our bigger expenses as well.
Farmers are making tough choices, delaying equipment upgrades, cutting labor costs, or changing planting strategies. For row crop farmers, switching to another crop or even raising livestock isn't always the best decision. Many invested millions into specialized equipment, meaning they have to make row crops work no matter the cost. I'm Kennedy Drake, reporting for the Roy Howard Community Journalism Center.
Thank you for listening to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. We're thankful for Carl Wilson, our audio engineer, and Gabby Collier, our film producer, for keeping this bird soaring. We especially want to thank our program director, Adeline Fields, our audio producer, Cadence Renfro, our booker, Austin Flores, and our general manager, Dr. Martin, as well as our lovely guests today. That's all for today on Southern Miss Radio. Thank you for listening, and remember, fly, eagle, fly. I'm your host, Abby Busegard, signing off.